Hello, welcome to Park End Church. My name is Owen Griffiths and I'm here with the pastor of Park End Church, Owen Batstone, and the church worker, Phil Jenkins. This is part of a series of videos that we're doing about the importance of Jesus, the importance of church, but we thought we'd do another video in order to talk about Jesus in less abstract terms, talk about him more concretely, what difference he's made to your lives in particular. So what I'm looking really to do is to hear about your experience of Jesus and what difference Jesus has made for you. So let's start with you, Owen.
Yeah, so for me, this is where the rubber hits the road about where all the things we've been talking about comes down to actually God wants our hearts. He doesn't just want us to talk about him, he wants actually the reality of him in our lives. Okay. And that's certainly my testimony. But when I talk about testimonies, I'm never keen on a couple of versions of testimonies. Like, lots of people stop at the moment they become a Christian and they stop talking. And I'm like, no, that's where a testimony begins. I don't want to just hear about your journey to becoming a Christian and then stop. Like, it's life with God, isn't it? Yeah. And the other thing that I get worried about with testimonies is, I love these types of stories. I was raised in church. My parents prayed for me. I can't remember a time where I wasn't trusting in the Lord. That's it. No magic light bulb moment. I just quietly have always... I love those. And I want that for my boys, that there'll never be a day where they weren't just quietly trusting the Lord. Mm. And testimony-like stories can make people think that they have to have a dramatic story and they throw their upbringing under the bus and their church and their Sunday school under the bus, because nothing mattered until they have this like exaggerated sense of like this exciting Hollywood blockbuster. And in the end, they are the hero of the story where they fought through debauchery and sin and they've come through and Jesus saved them. And I'm like, all right, I get it.
So you're not going to tell us anything dramatic or exciting? No.
Well, that's where this might take a little turning in an unforeseen direction, because mine is a bit like that. But I just wanted to say, I'm in the minority. Most of the Bible, most of church history was, I've raised in this community and it's just real over time and the Lord loves me and he's got me safe. That's my favourite, actually. Okay. Also, mine is a bit dramatic, but I wonder, was I a Christian before the dramatic story I'm about to tell you? But I was made to think that I wasn't a Christian. And there's some types of Christian ministry which make you think that you're not until you do have a certain moment. Right. And I do think moments are important, because I do think walking with God is important and knowing his felt presence beyond the pages of the Bible. I get it. But there's some types of ministry where on the back of a sermon comes like these cultural, subtle little hoops that a preacher might make people jump through before the preacher allows them to think that they are Christian. It's a dangerous thing in church. And it can be things like children can't be Christians. Like, you have to have a mature sense of Bible reading every day. You have to pray every single day for 4 hours. It's just sneaky. So I wonder, was I a Christian way back? But I was made to think I wasn't until something dramatic happened. So that's all my sort of small print before I actually tell you a dramatic story. Okay. So, when I was 19, I was far from God. Maybe I wasn't a Christian. I was in and out of church, sort of half interested. And then I went to bed. Also, I was a naughty boy. Actually, I still am.
Okay. I've heard that about you, actually.
Yeah, but I was more overtly naughty in certain ways. And when I was 19...
Do you want to share any of that with us?
I'm all right.
Okay.
When I was 19, I went to bed, as you do, and I had a dream. And I'm not saying that this dream is from God. I'm saying when I woke up, he used the dream to convince me of a few truths that I needed to hear. All right? So anyway, I went to sleep, had a dream, and in the dream, I was dealing drugs with my friends. And then we all got in a car and we drove to Caerphilly Mountain, just up there. And when we were in the car driving to Caerphilly Mountain, don't know why we were going to Caerphilly Mountain, there was a very loud trumpet noise. And what that trumpet noise was the end of the world being sounded. And the trumpets were sounded by angels. And what happened in my dream was I looked up out the window of the car and all these angels were appearing, and basically Jesus was on the way back. And I was in the car and I thought, uh-oh, if I'm not a Christian now, it's too late. I'm done for. I'm going to be put in the outside world where he isn't, and I'm going to hell. So I got out of the car, and what happened when the angels appeared? At the same time as that, demons started to appear. Goodness. And these were demons which, in my mind, looked like... Did you ever watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
You know what? I didn't.
You did? Did you watch Buffy the Vampire?
I can't say I did.
Did the cameraman ever watch Buffy? Oh, okay, right. So, all right. Well, there are demons in those, like masked men. They looked a bit like the orcs in Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
You've done that one?
I'm with you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well. Anyway, they were coming for me because I belonged to them. So the angels, I didn't belong to them. The demons, I was their property because I wasn't a Christian. I was in darkness. So they started chasing me. So I got out of the car and I legged it away from these demons who were getting closer to me. And anyway, I hid behind a rock. And the moment that these demons came up to me to seize me, because I was theirs, an angel came and put his foot on me and protected me. And all these demons just vanished. I was protected. And at that moment I woke up, 19 years old, 2004. And I thought, well, that was weird. Maybe I ate too much cheese the night before. That was a strange one. Anyway, so I then thought, well, if I'm not a Christian and that were to happen now, I would be lost. So I got out of bed and then knelt on the side of the bed and I said, Lord, I don't know what that dream was, but I think the truth of it is true about me, so please save me. If I'm not, just save me. And I think there he did. Right. If he didn't, it was him drawing me back to him because I had drifted. Mm-hmm. If I had become a Christian when I was little, which maybe I was, I don't know. And from there, my Christian walk has been up and down and unsteady and generally unreliable. But my testimony is he holds me fast. He's got me and he guides me and he keeps me. And he's very patient with me. So having said I don't like testimonies that stop there at the conversion, I am going to stop there because I've gibbered on for too long. Maybe one day we'll gather back and I'll talk about all the ways he's guided me after that. But I'm conscious that Phil is going to talk about like after conversion type lifestyle. So you're going to get that from him anyway.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Owen.
Thank you.
Well, Phil, turning to you now. We've just had from Owen a fascinating story about how he encountered God and how God used a dream to change his life. Before asking this question, I'd probably better say that you're full up with a cold, so we're grateful to you for coming, but that explains the croakiness of your voice. But if you could use your croaky voice just to tell us something about how Jesus has worked in your life.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a pleasure and a privilege. Just listening to Owen, of course, I suppose I am the first description. So I used to think when I was younger, I wish I had a sort of dramatic testimony. Right. In my teens and even early 20s, I used to think, oh, it's great to be able to see a before and after, whereas that's not my experience. But now I don't think like that, and I really am grateful to God that I was brought up in a Christian home. In fact, I was born in India, in Mizoram. My parents were missionaries with the Presbyterian Church of Wales. Oh, wow. Yeah. They came back, and my dad was in a pastorate in North Wales, brought up then in the manse, going to church, Sunday school, all those sort of things. And I can honestly say, I don't ever remember a time in my life when I didn't believe in God. That's not to say I was a Christian, and I didn't really, at that time, of course, understand the significance of Jesus, but the fact that there was a God, and that he was my father, and that he was looking after me, and I needed to trust him, I've never doubted that. When I say never doubted, obviously from time to time you have a few questions about theology and stuff like that, but nothing fundamental.
It's the background of your life and always has been.
Absolutely, yeah. But, so, for me, it's more a matter of how that soundtrack to my life, how that general sort of worldview becomes more personal. And I think I can look back on my life and see there's a few occasions when that definitely happened. And, one was when I was really small, 4 or 5, I can't remember, but I can remember saying to my dad after an evening service, I need to ask Jesus to forgive my sins. And so I went into his study and we prayed together, and I can still remember that. So that was very vivid and very significant. So life goes on. The next major time was in my teens, when I suppose you're faced with choices and you have to decide, now, is this serious or not? And again, I was attending a camp in Bala, and I was challenged to ask my own self and all the others, is Jesus really real to you? Is he your Lord and Master? And so again, I realized, yes, I had to make that affirmation, that decision. And then I think the third time was in university, when the issues then were more intellectual, not so much moral. There was nothing particularly bad. I wasn't dealing drugs or anything like that. But it was more an intellectual thing. Do I really believe this? Is the Bible true? Is Jesus who he said he was? And the thing that really helped me then was a little book by a guy called Michael Green. I don't know if it's still in print. It's called Man Alive. No. And it was a very simple declaration of the reliability of the scriptures and of the resurrection, that Jesus is really alive. I read that, and that was such a help. And I think that probably set me on. I mean, I bought loads of that and gave it out to my friends, because I thought if everybody could read this, they'd all become Christians, because Jesus is alive. And death is not the end, and we do have this great hope, and so on. So that was in my 20s. And then I think as a result of that, I went on, taught English for some time in a school in South Wales here. But all that time then I was thinking, what does God really want me to do in my life? I enjoyed English. I enjoyed Shakespeare and Keats and all the others, and studying these texts. But gradually I think God was guiding me. His Spirit was nudging me to think, well, as great as that is, it would be better to study the text in detail. And so, yeah, after 7 years, I packed in teaching. In that time, I'd met my wife, which obviously had a big influence on my life. And about the first chat we ever had, before we started going out, I said to her, well, look, I think God's calling me to the ministry, maybe to the mission field. And she said, oh, that's strange. I think God's calling me. And I thought, oh, yeah, I bet he is, you know. I sort of very superciliously thought she's just saying that, but in fact she wasn't. And she came from a whole family, as I discovered later, of missionaries in Africa particularly. And so in a funny way, that was a sense of, well, okay, let's carry on with this relationship, and then we're going in the same direction. So, guiding hand of God, I went back, I did theology, she did some midwifery in Oxford, and during that time, we had discussions with a mission organization, Africa Inland Mission, and they accepted us, and we went to Namibia in Southwest Africa. Again, I don't think you can, we never had sort of blinding lights or great dreams or anything like that. It was just a sense of every day walking as close as you can with Jesus, listening to his voice, obviously listening to other people's advice, and the way in which God had gifted us. So I wanted to do Bible teaching. She wanted to do primary health care. And what we found in Namibia was an assignment which suited us both. And so we were in Namibia then for 13, 14 years. We actually would have stayed there probably. And so again, God guides you in strange ways, because we felt that was almost a life calling. And then suddenly, out of the blue, the Namibian government wouldn't renew our work permits for no reason at all. I went in 3 times to the Home Affairs and asked them, have I done something wrong? They said, no, that's fine. You can come back in a few years if you want to, but now is the time for you to go. So we thought, okay, I think that's well, what can you do? And obviously, we're praying, we're asking God to guide us. By that time, we had 5 children. We went with 2 little ones, and 3 more came on the way. So we had 5 children, came back to Cardiff, and I had nothing to do, basically. No job, no house, 5 children. And I can remember, I suppose that was one occasion when the scripture really spoke to us both, and we were going through the Bible, and the story of Noah was our Bible reading. And there's that text which said, and God shut the door of the ark. Okay, so he shut the door, so we're trapped in this ark. But it's that sense of Noah just was on this ocean. He didn't know where he was going to land, or where the ark was going to come down to rest, but God was in control. And that was a great feeling for us both. We felt, okay, we're a bit adrift. We don't know what we're doing, but God knows what he's doing. And eventually that ark door is going to open, and we'll go out into...
That must have been a really anxious time.
It was, yes, it was. I can remember walking around the block, and yeah, I suppose I didn't have an anxiety attack, but it was a very anxious time. What should we do now, you know? And just to try and, well, again, commit your life to God and keep believing that he's got control, that he is your heavenly Father, that he wants to guide you and loves you, and he's promised never to leave you, never to forsake you. So within a few months, our church in Cardiff interviewed us, and they were looking for a second pastor, associate pastor, for missions and training. And I suppose that's what we've been doing, really, in Namibia. So I was appointed to the staff in Highfields Church in Cardiff. And that was a great time. And we continued to try and serve God in those ways by helping other missionaries. There was quite a lot of missionary partnership going on from the church across the world, visited missionaries and so on. And then the final sort of big change for us came then when our youngest went to university. She was 18, and we felt again that tug of cross-cultural mission and of serving God in a different context. And so we left Cardiff in 2015 and went to Greece, and I pastored an international church in Athens, which was great. Came back from there post-COVID and joined this young man in Park End. I can, just to go back, although we didn't understand why God brought us back from Namibia when he did, interestingly, well, providentially, within the next 8 years, all 4 of our parents died. And when we came back from Namibia, all 4 of them were in good health. So you can look back and you say, yeah, it was great that we were here in Wales. They were all, well, no, they weren't. Kath's parents were in Reading, but yeah, so all 4 of them passed away, all 4 believers. So no sorrow in that sense, but yeah, you can see why that was the right time for us to come back. So yes, nothing dramatic really, but just a real sense of God's faithfulness, of his grace, of his keeping power, because you look at your own heart, you realize how, if you left yourself, how different things would be. But for his grace and his keeping power, we're just so grateful.
You say nothing dramatic, but yours is a story of a life that really has been shaped by Jesus and the providence of God, and of proving the faithfulness and the goodness of God to your life.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that story with us.
Okay.
Phil, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you also to you, Owen. Thank you.